back here. This is going to be part 3 now in my Red Dead Redemption 2 playthrough with narrative analysis and commentary. Let's jump in here. You've probably been watching the 2 previous ones. If you are watching this on my channel, unless you're watching live, that's cool too. So I won't really kind of bother to reintroduce what I've been working on, which is my narrative and film analysis. But that's the perspective that I'll be looking at the game in. I'll be playing it, but mostly trying to kind of understand its narrative aspects, its characters, its dialogue, right? Decisions, options, things like that. Some of the things I've noticed so far is that it's interesting, even though Arthur Morgan is like in one way, in one sense, a bad guy because he's an outlaw and murders and steals and all this kind of stuff. He's also very caring and very kind and really quite charming, and he doesn't seem like a bad person to like hang out with, right? Or to come up across. He seems pretty fair. So immediately it's just kind of interesting that there's this what the hell's going on? Oh. This happens every time I like make my own save. But anyhow, so his despite being a bad guy, he can still be likable, and he can still be I want to say like justified in his actions, right? Like that's what I think is probably kind of similarly interesting about like the Grand Theft Auto series, is that even though these people are doing like horrible things generally, they still have like an underlying like moral compass. They're doing bad things, but mostly because they have to in some sense, and sometimes they're not, and they're worse people. But even like in Grand Theft Auto 5, I think it was named Trevor, or like the bald guy. Like that dude's just a piece of shit. But it's interesting how Rockstar does this, where we can identify with that, right? We can identify it in the sense of like they're like they're characters in these like really popular games that a lot of people play and a lot of people are attached to, and that's not to say, right, that just because the characters are likable means that the players playing them are like are like supportive of all of that, right? But it does mean that for there to be like this ability to like enjoy that character, enjoy kind of embodying them to some degree, and following them and kind of becoming more intimate with their story and whatnot, there has to be something there that rescues them from just being a total piece of shit, right? So that's something that Rockstar, I think, does very well and is a little more apparent in Grand Theft Auto 5, whereas here it doesn't even seem like he says he's doing bad stuff, but now in the lands, in the geography that they're in, their actions are becoming worse because it's beginning more advanced, and because of how advanced it's getting. So it's this inevitable
talk to them.
It's this inevitable thing to happen. So I'm gonna get going in here. I'm gonna start, I guess, with this guy, Kieran. I'll antagonize him a little bit.
You got some speaking to do of your own. Not that old gang of yours.
I told you, I don't know nothing.
That's what I thought.
Whoa! Hold your horses there. It seems the cat has got our friend here's tongue. I was thinking Mr. Williamson could have a word.
You ready to talk, boy?
I told you, mister. I told all of you. I don't know nothing. They ain't no friends of mine. I just been ridden with them for a while.
Horseshit! You see, we heard that part, so how about you tell the truth? That's what you want me to do.
Hurt him, so the next time he opens his mouth, it is to tell us what is going on! Ah, who am I kidding? One of O'Driscoll's boys couldn't open his mouth, but he'd tell a lie. Screw it. Let's just have some fun. Geld here.
Yeah!
What's he doing? Where's he going?
Oh, don't worry. Your only balls, boy. Just gonna cause you trouble. You know, in Imperial Rome, eunuchs was among the happiest and most loyal of courtiers.
No, you kidding me, right?
Of course.
You sick
That's
bastard!
interesting.
What do
Eunuchs.
you want from me?
Well, you are.
Just read a book
gonna
earlier
talk.
this
The
year about
only
slavery
question
and
is
talked a lot
now
about
or
eunuchs
after
and
we got these little fellas off.
Imperial China and
Okay, listen. I know
not so
where
much Rome, but I guess
O'Driscoll's
Rome
holed
a little bit. But
And you're right. He don't like you any more than you like him. He's at 6 Point, Cap. I'll take you there. Serious. I don't like him. I mean, I like him even less than I like you. No offense.
Oh, none taken.
Okay then, partner. Why don't you take a few of us up there right now? I got this, Dutch.
right now,
Should be fun. All right, you. Come on. Let's go. Let's both hope you ain't trying to trick us, O'Driscoll.
I ain't no O'Driscoll.
Well, you sure as shit was. John, Bill, come here. We got a social call needs making. Where we heading?
Up into the hills behind Valentine. But I'll show you.
John, you take this little rattlesnake with you. Any nonsense, kill him. Sure. You gonna pay your buddies our respects.
where's my horse?
You taking us to Combe? That's what he says. Come on.
I'm taking you to him. Look,
Are these both my horses?
I
Holy shit!
know where we
My
are.
horse just kicked me.
Just past Valentine.
All right. I'll leave.
What the fuck?
Let's go if we're gonna go.
That was weird. They just killed that horse for kicking me. Wow. Did you see that? I apparently got a little too close to that horse and it kicked me, and then my teammates shot it.
Who'd have thought?
How
My
many times I
gang
gotta say?
mates.
I ain't an
My
O'Driscoll.
gang buddies.
You
My
sure look like
boyfriends.
one, and you smell like. God damn. You smell like one too.
I smell like horse shit.
That's right. Boy, are you high.
Is that John Marston?
Morgan! You got throwing knives in your saddlebag. Doug said that you might... I was asked to give them, and I'm doing you the further courtesy of telling you about it.
Next time you want to give me something, how about you give it to me instead of hiding it somewhere, hoping the opportunity comes up to mention it.
Last goddamn favor I do you.
Hey, hey, if I got my bearings, it's over here. Yeah, I know this country. Take this track up through the rocks.
How you holding up, John? Fine. Still ain't right, but I'm fine. You damn well should be after all that bed rest. Hey, all right. Abigail wouldn't let me up. You know her. She won't be reasoned with. Well, when you was having a failure of reason, hiding behind your woman, we were getting shot at. And I'd do the same for you, if you was in a bad way. I hope so. But I fear you don't know how to help anyone. Except in yourself. You see, O'Driscoll? If this is how he treats his friends, imagine what he does to his enemies.
I got an inkling of what you all do to your enemies when you put those gelding tongs to my parts.
Bill, you still got those tongs?
I got a knife.
I wonder why that wasn't like expanded on at all, like him kind of calling John out for
young feller. Right at the forefront of
laying in bed and
I
hiding
swear,
behind his woman.
I
Right?
promise. I am taking you to Combe as
As
best
I've mentioned
I
before,
can.
part of the
You'll see,
Western
I'll make
has a lot
good.
to do with gender, because it has a lot to do with basically making the kind of viewer, convincing the viewer that the main character
Those are the
is
hills.
a man
Head for 'em.
Take your horses,
by
we gotta climb, boys.
putting them in these kind of circumstances where they, you know, need to prove their
You all ain't that
manhood
different
in a
from the
sense.
O'Driscolls.
What did you just say?
You know, relating
I've been
to
watching
family,
you all these weeks,
especially
and,
relating to women,
You've been
but
tied
relating
to
to
a tree.
honor,
You don't know nothing about this game.
you know,
Well, I'd
and
say
it very
you don't
much
know much
like
about the
too, like the
O'Driscolls.
more I,
But maybe
you
I know
know,
more about you than you know about them.
the more I see now
And
after
I
kind
know
of like
all
reading this
about
book
them, so
Tell us then.
about
How are we like
a
those
lot of
mongrel
that. It's
dogs?
called
You're
Westerns
outlawed
Making
like
a Man
them?
in Fiction and
you're out to
Film
survive
by
like them.
Lee Clark
You
Mitchell.
live rough. You live hard. Fighting the law, nature. You're out for
I'm
yourselves.
just reading this now.
This is why you're an O'Driscoll, O'Driscoll. You're out to survive. We're out to live. Free. Cole's a sneak thief and a killer. Dutch is more like a teacher.
From where I've been, you just look the same as all.
Then you looked, but you ain't seen.
John, shut that boy up.
Enough out of you.
Boys, we're almost
I
on.
kind of wish I would have gotten more, a little more of that. But it
Who
seemed like,
knows if this son of a bitch we got with us is
again,
talking
here's
true,
like a kind
but
of
if it's what
moral
he says it
distinction
is,
between
Colm O'Driscoll's
this
here,
one gang
we
and with
can
their gang that John
hear the
Marston
fight.
says, you know, you're only out here to survive, but we're out here to live
Here.
free.
Okay, now cut left up here.
And,
We go down the hill into the forest.
And that's a pretty significant difference in morals and ideology, I think.
Taking them out
That
as we find
they're
them.
trying to, you know,
Trying not to set
just trying to
things
guide
off.
this plot, right?
But if we do, we move quick and hard.
And the
Settle this like
characters,
we
right?
know how, okay?
Okay by me.
Oh, but something I've noticed a lot more in the westerns too is just how
Through
at the
trees
center
here.
the male body always is. And I guess that's probably true for like a lot of genres and a lot of different, you know, media.
Right. We're real
Men's
close.
bodies are
I'd leave your horses the other
everywhere.
side of this clearing.
I'll get my guns off my horse, and I'm ready.
But
Easy, Bill. Quiet.
but it's pretty significant in, I think, you know, part of the
This
process
is it.
of,
The cabin's
you know,
just the other side of this hill.
making the viewer
Okay.
believe, you know, convinced
horse.
that the character's
Let's go.
a
You
man
gonna get them knives?
is
I
to be
said
convinced about their kind
easy.
of, you know, their bodily manhood, as well as like the ideas of
Follow
what
me, all right?
make one
it
a
ain't
man,
far.
We might have
which
shared a
are
horse.
like their
but we ain't
actions and things
friends.
like that.
Remember,
But they have to
I'm
be,
watching you
you know, according to
every
these kind of
moment.
I ain't gonna shoot
like,
you now.
I think it's
Come
just
on.
funny as I'm talking about this and like the cinema camera is like on his butt for some reason and it's not like going anywhere else.
Jesus Christ. Hey, there, you see?
But yeah,
Okay.
this
Get down.
kind of idea of manhood can't be
Cabins
separated
in the clearing
from
down there.
the body and the
There'll be a
image
bunch
of
of
what,
fellers
you know,
hiding out there too.
a man is.
armed.
Armed, drunk, wary of strangers. Yup.
And Colm O'Driscoll?
He'll be holed up in his cabin. Be passed out, booze blind, likely as not.
And over there, someone's coming.
So, who's gonna tell him we ain't got nothing for the pot?
Let me think. The fellow that spooked the game, I reckon.
I'm gonna drain it. I'll catch up. No, we ain't gonna fall for that. We're gonna wait so you can tell him yourself. Yeah. If anyone's actually gonna shoot the messenger, it'd be that mean son of a bitch. Yes, sir. Come on, shake it off.
What are we doing about the pisser, Morgan? One by the tree.
He's yours, Williamson.
Okay. I got him.
Don't move. Now stay here. Don't you damn move.
guess you didn't need to hold that guy out. What's Marson doing? Oh, I have to go down there too? Alright, I thought I was just gonna watch.
The next two. What's the plan?
You looking to die today?
Oh! This is your last fight!
That could have gone better, but, you know, it is what it is.
We move quick. We move hard.
These are the first one for the grizzlies. Don't run away from me.
What are you hiding out in the woods?
Probably just added like 20 minutes to my mission.
Back to the cabin. Let's make a stand.
This is quite a hideout.
Come on, Driscoll! Where are you?
This
We
dude.
caught him on the drain.
Do I not have any more ammo? Wow, this sucks. Oh wow.
We got him. Close in.
Move in on him. Ah, you
Trail.
idiots.
Run and hide if you know what's good for you.
You weren't lying, that little toad.
Driscolls, we got you beat. None of them get out of here.
come at me, you Irish
We catch you unawares. Fella's coming back in the...
Oh yeah, I could use that aid thing too. Shit.
You stay here, you're dead men.
Gonna try to beat him up, but apparently it didn't work.
I got a bullet for each one of
Leave him. Comb's still here.
He said Combs be in the cabin.
I'll check. You look out here.
How do I? Where is? Why don't I have that fucking sawed-off shotgun? It's kind of annoying. My horse following me? It's cute. We just burned down the cabin.
You all right?
Sure. Thank you.
Interesting scene.
Colm O'Driscoll. He ain't here. You've set us up. Come here!
What?
You set us up.
No, I didn't.
You did. Colm O'Driscoll ain't here!
He was here, I swear. If I was setting you up, I wouldn't have saved your
He
life.
could have just ran away. I mean,
Arthur.
All right, then, go on. Get out of here. Hey? I won't kill you.
I didn't set you
Get
up.
lost.
Shit, lost.
I'm letting you run away. Now go on. Get out of here.
That's as good as killing me. Out there, without you, Colm O'Driscoll's gonna lose his mind about this.
So?
So I'm one of you now.
Give me a break. All right, then. But I'm warning you.
Oh, hey, I know.
Come on, let's get to camp.
Yeah,
got
and like
cash
with no
there?
hesitation.
What cash?
Yeah, it's usually some cash. In
No.
the chimney.
I'll check it. Rest of you boys, get to camp quick.
See, Arthur? I ain't so
Why
bad.
wouldn't they loot
Hey,
the fucking
Bill.
place first, dude?
You tell Dutch old Kieran ain't worth killing. Just yet.
Yeah, right you are.
Yeah, but you notice how Arthur Morgan kind of just like immediately, without like any hesitation, really just like is, takes this dude in and was just like, yeah, you can be one of us now. I did help him or whatever, but at the same time, what am I doing now? Cleaning weapons. Oh, clean. Perfect. All shiny. But yeah, without any hesitation, really just like, it's like, okay, you can come with us, and
At least you got something tucked away.
and that's not the actions of a bad person, right? It's not the actions of somebody who is irrational and is like, yeah, it makes sense to me. So yeah, it's kind of peculiar the position that they, that Arthur has, really, is like he can be very he can be very fearful, or not fearful, what am I trying to say? But I mean, like, he can kill and he can get his way and he can, use force to get what he wants and all this kind of stuff. At the same time, he's very understanding and not an asshole. He's not, in that way, the type of person that we assume he's going to be. Which might play part of, in, our kind of, what the fuck? Crime? What crime was reported? That's not good. Okay, well, I'm gonna get out of here.
Let's go, girl.
I don't really understand who's investigating what. I mean, I'm assuming it's the authorities, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. Where the hell am I supposed to go? What's my mission say? Guess I just gotta chill. So yeah, a couple things that, it's very interesting with this like new wanted thing, because I don't believe they had that in Red Dead Redemption 1. I could be mistaken. I'm actually curious about. Did they have wanted in Red Dead? In Red Dead Redemption, the player can acquire a bounty in both single and multiplayer for committing crimes. Yeah, so if the player commits a crime which is witnessed by someone and that person is able to report it, a bounty will be issued. The bounty level will be determined by the crimes committed and committing. Any additional crimes beyond that, blah blah blah, will exist. Okay. Pardon letter. Interesting, in Red Dead Redemption 1 you can get a pardon letter. Well, I kind of brought that up because it interests me in this way that, you know, just thinking about these missions that we're doing here. What is this? But, so with the mission we just did, we went to this kind of rival gang's hideout that we found from this POW type dude, and tried to kill him, but the guy who we wanted wasn't there, so we gotta go find him, I'm assuming. Now, part of it really reminds me just like this kind of direction, really similar to like Grand Theft Auto as far as you know, like the gang kind of wars, or thinking about kind of like mobster movies and whatnot. I just watched The Godfather, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. But yeah, playing this part of these rival gangs and whatnot, with the added complexity of, you know, the fact that like they can't even do what they're doing without the law, you know, without getting a bounty. But in that kind of like, in that setting of, you know, these kind of like rivalry gangs, there has to be like a good gang and a bad gang, right? So it's not just like gangs are bad. Again, you know, as I've mentioned this before, and I'm probably just repeating myself at this point, but it keeps going along this line of, you know, kind of a different moral standard, you know, connected to a different actual, you know, environment politically and socially, where here, you know, civil society is really just kind of ringing in, so it's almost that, you know, I mean, it's kind of interesting though to think about it. So this is where I was going with that, is that civil society is supposedly ringing in this change to the environment, which makes it, you know, more difficult for these outlaws to be to exist and to keep doing what they're doing. So it's changing the political and the social. Depending on, I don't know how that's gonna be resolved by the game. Well, I mean, I kind of do. I know the ending already. So just, I mean, I know what kind of happens. But thinking about that then, and like, you know, I just was mentioning Grand Theft Auto also, you know, Grand Theft Auto is about that very same thing though. Grand Theft Auto is all about the mob wars, or the gang wars, and like you know, the kind of competing outlaws, the competing, you know, people who don't abide by the supposed like law, or, you know, what's supposed to happen in society, and abide by these laws and participate in the economy as one is supposed to. So basically, I think what I'm trying, oh my god, this dude.
For sparing me.
Interrupting me like that? Come on.
I'll work hard. I am not a bad fella. You'll soon warm to me.
Just see that I do.
Oh, you will.
Boy. Thank you
Boy.
for saving my life.
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay. But I think in short, part of what I know that I'm during this, it's all coming off the cuff, so I'm gonna be like very sporadic sometimes. If you're listening, and maybe just skip forward or leave a comment and be like, dude, come on. But basically, what I think I'm trying to say is that if the struggles in Red Dead Redemption 2 that are being told are kind of projecting into the future, that this, yeah. But if the struggles in the game that they're projecting forward are that this kind of outlaw life is not going to exist anymore, and their kind of way of life is going to be changing, where do we conclude when we think about Grand Theft Auto, where that is what their life all is? Grand Theft Auto is essentially just the continuation, I think, in the sense of like the outlaw life, of living as an outlaw, of making, participating in the economy illegally and not in the ways that you're supposed to. So we kind of already know that like this outlaw life isn't really extinct. But then thinking about what the anxieties are, I guess, then, like why it's built around these struggles of that happening. Could possibly be with maybe the fact that, like, at some point there is no more distinction, right, between a good outlaw and a bad outlaw, that they're all bad to some degree. Which again is still not how Grand Theft Auto 5 treats its game, but it's somewhat like that. Somewhat like that. So.
Dutch? Miss O'Shea?
Well, feels like we are finally getting back on our feet.
You, find a buyer for them bonds we stole?
Not yet, but Jose is working on it.
Actually, hold on. I need to get some coffee. Excuse. I think I'm still on.
When we heading?
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that.
Soon?
We're back.
I don't know. Feels like things have changed. The whole world's changed. But they don't want folk like us no more. We're being hunted.
We are smarter than them. Only the feeblest of men take jobs in the government.
I hope so.
Trust Dutch, Mr. Morgan. You have to.
They got Micah. Dutch! Officer!
What's going on?
They got Micah. He's been arrested for murder. He was in Strawberry.
It's okay, son. Breathe.
Oh, you're fine.
They nearly lynched me. They got Micah and the sheriffs in Strawberry. And there's talk of hanging him.
Here's open. Arthur, what? The fool brought this on himself. You know my feelings about him,
You
Dutch.
think I can't see past his bluster to the heart inside? He is a fine man.
No, I ain't saving that fool.
I can't go. My face will be all over West Elizabeth. I am asking. He would do it for you.
I don't think he would, but fine, all right.
Arthur.
You okay, Lenny?
Yeah, of course I'm okay.
You don't seem okay.
You take that kid into town. Valentine, not Strawberry. Get him drunk. And Arthur, no crazy business.
I've given that up.
And you get Micah out of that jail.
Come on, son. I'll get to it, Dutch. Just can't drop everything. Girl?
I don't really understand why we're saving that guy, but okie doke. Let's use some more cinematic cameras. I like how they have that option, so you can, obviously just put it on
You
when
look
you
like you've
travel
been through
and
it.
whatnot.
I'm beat. We finally get off that mountain. then
Sometimes
this.
a little bit janky, but
Micah's got a crazy side offer.
What were you boys doing? You were supposed to be scouting ahead for it.
I kept asking him what we was doing, but he was, "You worry too much, kid. Just some business to attend to."
I thought I
You know how
didn't
he
need
is.
to like
Yes,
frickin'
I do.
He was half
steer.
sober before we even got there.
But
Then we
apparently
ran
I
into
do.
some fellas. One of them, Micah knew, drank some more. And this is supposed to be a dry town we're in, too.
Then he shoots one of them. I know how that goes.
Couldn't even tell you quite how. Happened like the strike of a match. The law was on us fast, too. They was ready to strangle me up there and then. But I got away, just about.
You're all right now. We'll
And I had
take
some
care of it.
tacos for lunch.
So you gonna go
They
get
were
him?
not that great.
I'll come with you.
Might feel
Nah,
like
you leave
crap
it to
later.
me. For now, let's
It's
drink
kind of
some.
disappointing.
Forget about Mike.
They're okay.
It was drink that started all this.
We'll just have a couple. Settle you down, then head back, okay?
Okay.
Now, I should warn you. Me and a couple of the other boys got in a bit of a fight last time we was here.
What kind of fight?
Oh, nothing big. We kept it clean. We're all good.
If you say so, Arthur.
They kept it clean. Arthur got thrown through a window, and like the whole town was like watching. That's interesting. So what is Arthur Morgan's character? Arthur Morgan's character is really loyal, really kind. Really, obviously, what we see is just like he has a good nature to him. But with that, he's also like brave. He's not, doesn't seem afraid of a lot of anything. There's no doubt that we can call like Arthur Morgan a man, right? Or exhibiting manly. I don't want to say manliness. That sounds weird, but like there's no confusion about his gender. It's not like a point of contention. It's not a joke. It's not something that can even be regarded that way.
Hey, slow down! You want to start something?
And he's just like that. Kind of really just in a sense makes him just like a really pure character, even though he says that he's a bad guy and does all this, supposed bad stuff, because he acts very like selfless too. In all that, he also is willing to, enact violence whenever he sees fit. And even sometimes, like, when it may not be necessary. He doesn't seem to have any problems with violence. When it comes to the question of loyalty and things like that. So, all in all, I mean, really that to say so far, what we see out of his character, I think, is kind of, is definitely embodying kind of manhood, embodying like the archetypal like man, and also being able to be like to grow out of like moral flexibility, I suppose. So he's kind of experiences these things that he thinks make him a bad person, even though he's not a bad person. He probably wouldn't really regard himself as a bad person, but I get the feeling that he wouldn't even like, you know, he just doesn't like talking about himself, that kind of guy, right? So with him being able to do all these bad things, it just adds like a layer to his character. Yeah, it adds this layer to his character where, like, even though he's kind of like pure and all that stuff, he has to have some reason for us to see him go through this like change and this formation, I think, which is not necessarily going from being a bad person to being a good person, but to believing himself that he is a good person, rather than just acting on, you know, what he's doing because of using the excuse because that's what he has to do, or he's loyal or something like that.
Just one or two, right, Arthur? Of course, just a drink. No big drama. Can we get a couple beers, please?
I don't want no trouble.
You'll get none from me. I was defending myself.
Tommy,
He'll be fine. Here, have one for yourself.
Thank you.
Micah seemed to know a lot of people. That was the problem.
How you mean?
I mean, I done seen a lot of crazy stuff, but Micah...
A lot of crazy stuff.
Will you shut up?
Will you shut up?
Be quiet, buddy.
Oh, they're dullards. My lord, you men is dull.
Hey, leave this fool alone.
Leave the fool alone. People been leaving me alone for the last 10 years. I'm bored.
Listen, buddy. You're a charming fellow. One of the best. But me and the kid here, we're trying to talk business, so could you possibly leave us alone? No offense intended.
Ain't no pleasing some folk. Just trying to be friendly.
Oh. That's great, partner. Lenny, where are you? Hey, Lenny!
Pretty drunk.
Lenny! Lenny? Lenny, where are you?
I like I was walking all fast.
What are you doing, Jack?
Hello, Arthur. You know what?
I don't know.
Why ain't you never married?
Lord in heaven. That's the thing, you see. 'Cause it... Lenny? Lenny!
Get away, watch it. Yeah. Whoa, slippery little shit, ain't you? That's it. Oh, come on.
Lenny, where are you at?
Come on, dude.
Leave the killing alone, you goddamn animals.
Who do you think you're talking to?
Again, you know,
I'm talking to nobody.
one of those things I noticed yesterday was
I said, what did you say?
talking about animals, referring to animals as monsters and referring to people who are doing bad things as animals. Nice. Man, I am fucked up. Didn't I just...
Lenny! You bastard! Found you, Lenny! How many of you had, pal?
Yeah, what is this guy drinking? Is he drinking like, what's that stuff called? What's that stuff called that you like trip out on? That alcohol? Hey, at least, what's that alcohol called that you trip out on? Alcohol. Absinthe. What is this mission? I just found that fool, didn't I? Is that Lenny? No. What the fuck just happened? Did I just like fall? This dude is too fucked up. I can't do this. He just keeps falling over. And Arthur Morgan cannot hold his shit together. I was like wondering why there's so many like black cowboys in here, because there was not that many when I came in.
You're a good friend to me, Arthur.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Not you again?
Oh my god. I do not understand this mission. Oh my god.
Stop right now, you drunken fool! I said stop!
You alive? Arthur! You alive, Arthur?
I want to die. Well, what do we do?
I don't know.
Oh, man. ain't neither.
You pair degenerates. There's a fine for drunken violence in this town. You're just lucky no one was killed.
Hey, we didn't start a thing.
Yes, you did.
Well, I don't remember.
Either you fools got any money, it's $10 and you're free to walk.
Sure.
Now, get out of here. I don't want to see either of you around here no more.
So, that was a quiet drink?
First one was pretty quiet.
Yeah, the first one was pretty quiet.
At least it took your mind off goddamn Mikey.
Well, that's certainly true. I gotta get out of here.
I'm just gonna have a little sit down and feel sorry for myself.
You can rest by holding your cores will not drain while resting. You can rest. Okay, I need to like go take a nap. Why don't I just go get my horse and go home? And I thought Dutch said to get like that dude out of jail too, so that's kind of weird why that's not what happened. Whoa, there's more. Wonder if I can pay this stupid bounty. Jose needs help with a new business opportunity. Dutch told to try and rescue Sean from the bounty hunters holding him in Blackwater. I haven't been to Blackwater yet. Oh, in Strawberry, right, okay. That makes sense, alright. So I might as well do this mission and then go kind of work on the other ones I got going on. Let me see.
Move already.
Cool little town. Cool little town. Very busy. Again, it's so interesting to me that even though Red Dead Redemption 1 takes place at a time that
Go ahead and call your mama for all I care.
Hey, friend.
Take it easy, I got lumbago. Should have thought about that.
anyway, even though Red Dead Redemption 1 takes place later in time, at a future moment, when things are more advanced, when society had, you know, had definitely increased the population, and the population in the West particularly. So it's funny to me that the towns in this game seem to be far more populated, even though the towns in the other game were a little more modern, laid out a little bit more modern. You know, they actually, I feel like they had like brick and stuff like that at that point. I mean, like not at that point, of course they had brick, but they had it like in the game, you know, brick buildings and stuff like that. So part of why I think that, and what I've recently written about Red Dead Redemption, is the fact that it takes the first one takes place along the Mexican-American border, and so I think that kind of, you know, stabs the idea that the West is just about, or the Western is just about, you know, purely this kind of landscape of transformation, and this landscape where you know, as we're seeing right here with Arthur and his gang, you know, a land that is in transition and that is bringing something new. As we can like very well see, there's a lot more people and that kind of thing. Well, what does that say about Red Dead Redemption 1 then, if Red Dead Redemption 1 is less populated and kind of more rural, even if it takes place at a time when things were like more advanced and whatnot. So to me, it's not just a simple idea that the Western, you know, visualizes like a landscape that is transformed or is like being transformed, you know, because Red Dead Redemption 1 almost makes it such that like that is the nature of that landscape, for it to be like unpredictable in a way, for it to be dangerous, for it to be violent, and that is kind of just made out as part of the landscape itself rather than a circumstance that's happening on the landscape, like here where it just happens that, you know, transformation and urbanization is happening a little bit quicker. So I'm gonna grab a little bit more coffee and then I'll do this mission. Still online, it looks like. Cool. Alright. So we're gonna do this.
Herr Morgan! Herr Morgan!
Mr. Strauss?
You busy, my friend?
Why?
No, that's why I came over to talk to you.
Already?
You know how it is. People is happy to borrow off someone like me, but
money lending and other
enthusiastic
sins.
paying back to someone like you.
Of course. Who are they?
Let me see. Chick Matthews works at Guthrie Farm. He's a hand, I believe. Mr. Roble, the small holder at Painted Sky, runs the operations there, badly. Miss Lily Millet is a ranch maid up at Emerald Ranch.
And here was me believing Dutch's bluster about us helping folk.
It's legal work, Mr. Morgan. Debtors belong in prison. We are doing them a favor.
Aye. And I'll make sure they see it in them terms.
Put the debts in the deed box and try not to kill them. It's very bad for business.
Claim a debt from one of the debtors. Wow, now I could probably go on a lot longer than I should about this, just in what, you know, in what that just entailed. I mean, it was such a small mission statement and, like, kind of dialogue and everything, but it really speaks volumes about what kind of transition we're looking at here and how we're kind of supposed to be visualizing it in a sense, in a very contemporary way. But the fact that, you know, one, the mission was called money lending and other sins, right? So obviously, like, attributing money lending to being a sin. But it's kind of curious because it doesn't seem to me whether or not that was like considering the money lenders the sinners. Like, the mission sounded, you know, the way that it was stated, the mission sounds like it was you know, it was saying kind of that that those who lend money out are sinners, which actually, you know, which I was going to go on basically from the idea that that actually was, you know, a very widely held belief at the time. I mean, I think it was like the Catholic Church had outlawed money lending, or I think like charging interest on money lending and things like that. You know, just how debtors make their, or not debtors, but how people who lend money make their money is by charging interest. So there's definitely a history of morality and money lending there that's very real. But also with what the guy said in the end about, you know, going, you know, for me to go apprehend these people, that said something about them being sinners, and like them being, you know, like there's something wrong with them, right? They're the ones like sinning from his perspective because they haven't paid on their debts that they owe. And you know, that really leaves this kind of like, we'll see how the mission goes, but that really kind of starts us off in this really like this middle of the road thing where I feel like on the one hand money is sinning, but then also we're working for this person who is seeing these people who have borrowed money as being sinners and being bad because they can't, you know, because they're not paying it back. A lot of that you can read in David Graeber's book, Debt, the First 5,000 Years, which is mostly where I just got all that I'm, you know, mentioning. It's very helpful in, you know, it's a history of debt from an anthropologist's perspective. So a lot in there about debt and morality, money and morality, work and morality. You know, how borrowers of money are seen as bad people.
Knock, knock, Mr. Robe.
No, przepraszam, co pan robi w moim domu?
God damn it. English? Speak English?
Me, Silesia.
Yeah, good for
Upper
you.
Silesia.
I'm here for money. You borrow from a German man?
Aha, German. Mein Herr, sprechen the Kaiserreich.
I don't speak German neither. I'm here for money. Money that you borrowed from Leopold Strauss.
Leopold Strauss.
Yeah. So it's time to pay. Where is it?
Well, no, have nothing. It's very bad winter.
We've all had a bad winter, pal. Where is it?
Oh, no. No, nie.
Beat up the debtor. I'm just gonna
Now,
turn
you
him.
remember where you're keeping that silver?
Potrzebuję trochę czasu. Znajdę ci pieniądze.
Oh, still don't understand you. Where is the money? Gold, dollars.
I'll beat him a little bit.
Nie rób tego. I have nothing. Przestań! No! No, nie! No! Please, no! Don't have money, but I have this. It's good. Valuable. It's Warszawa, yes.
I have your things, okay? I have anything in here or out there.
Yes.
So in lieu of the money, I'm just gonna loot his house. Kind of calls to like the mortgage crisis and, you know, repossessing property when people
The longer I look, the madder I get.
have houses, you know, it just makes me think of houses foreclosing and banks, you know, taking people's property and things like that. Take this painting. It's probably worth it. What actually is that?
be something somewhere. Don't even speak English.
Wouldn't it be easier for this guy just to like bring me whatever he had? I have to go looking for it. I don't know, there's all this good stuff he keeps passing up. Take that dude's pen.
No, 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 no.
Yes, 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 yes.
Wow. Yeah, so really just like that flip from being a very being just like a really understanding person, very rational person, and kind of that, you know, this might not be a very explicit form of violence, other than like the beating, the threatening, right? I mean, threatening is like a little more of an ambiguous form, but just still this tendency and this willingness to kind of go the lengths of whatever's necessary, whatever kind of violence is necessary to, you know, in a way to get what, I guess, like, you know, to please those that, you know, that Arthur Morgan sees a kind of moral obligation to, let's say. So those he works for, those he grew up with, his gang, the people that provide for him. So maybe that's a way that I might stick with continuing to frame it, is framing his actions through a kind of moral obligation, and how he feels he needs to, you know, kind of do whatever it takes, or will do whatever it takes in a sense, to fulfill that. So it's, because yeah, it's weird how easily you can flip from like, oh, he's being so nice and stuff, to like, wow, like what a dickhead, you know. But he's justified in, you know, went the wrong way. But he's justified in that because that's his job, and that's, you know, part of his gang, and blah blah blah. So, and that's what he needs to do to essentially survive. But it's seeing like this moral obligation that's rooted in the exploitation of other people, and not just violence, because, you know, it's rooted in, I guess.
I was talking to Little Jack.
Anyway.
There's a fine boy you got. Yeah, he's mine.
Something. Why? Stop trying to listen, bro. He's like trying to listen to that conversation that's going by. There are a lot of people in this camp too.
Just what did you say to me?
Where? Oh yeah. And that's the other thing. Putting in the deed box, calling, you know, like that. You know, I'm curious if that's where the phrase of, you know, good deeds comes from, which I think would be pretty interesting to find out more on. But that really goes to like David Graeber's Debt Book, where he talks a lot about what, how morality was really mixed up with money and kind of economy, at least capitalist economy. What the fuck? What am I doing? Didn't I just do all that? forgot what I took from him. Did I take all this stuff? I feel like that's mine. I don't really understand what's going on here. Front page of ledger shows oh, okay. Why do I care? I don't want any of this stuff, honestly. Can I get out of here? I don't understand why I'm not, like, able to get out of this. I don't want to stay in this ledger thing. It's kind of frustrating. So I mean, I feel like an idiot. I'm like, what? How am I just, like, not able to figure this shit out?
Ah, well.
I don't really care about. Okay, I'll buy something. What about that? Happy?
How did you get on, Herr Morgan?
Called in on the small holder, Roble.
I guess I had to.
Didn't even speak English.
Good, very good.
My pleasure.
Well, if it's pleasure you're after, there is one other. This farmer preacher fellow I met in Valentine, Mr. Downs.
The opinionated little do-gooder? Yeah, I know the one. I certainly know the type.
Thank you, Herr Morgan.
There's no need to thank me. Like you said, it's pleasure I'm after.
He's more slippery than he seems. I've tried being polite. Don't take any nonsense.
Nonsense? Me?
If he doesn't have the money, beat him.
Well, I usually do.
I know. I know.
Cool. Oh, it's all misty out. That's nice. One of those like stamina things. Maybe I should sleep. That'd be a good idea. I'm gonna go sleep. Go to bed. There's a tent over here.
The Lord.
Where can I go to nap?
Hey, Arthur! What you want? Man, you one sour son of a bitch, ain't you? Only when I see you. Only when I see you.
Oh, do I do that?
Mr. Morgan, you're quite a sight.
Thank you.
You're revolting, and you'll get all of us sick. Come with me.
Oh, I'm sort of busy right now.
I wasn't asking. I'm telling. My camp, my rules. Come on.
Life is very...
Get. Mm-hmm.
some money for your troubles.
Why, thank you, kind sir.
Okay. Alright, I'm just gonna get some medicine. There you go.
Mr. Morgan.
Mr. Morgan. Mr. Morgan.
Reverend?
I just want to thank you for saving my life. The liquor is not my friend, Mr. Morgan. It really isn't. I make such a fool of myself.
Don't worry about it.
You're a fine man.
Now, lying on the other hand, that really is a sin.
Alright, take bitters. What the fuck are bitters gonna do? I guess I could. Let's see.
Hi.
Okay. Well, I don't know what that did, but
Hello, Arthur.
we're gonna go do another mission here. Probably do another mission or so and then be heading off for a little while. We'll
Let's go, girl.
resume a little bit later. Let's see. I don't really want to go do the bounty one right now. What is this? Come on, damn it. Oh, what does he need help with? I don't really want to. Don't like business. Yeah, I'll just go get Micah. I feel like I'm gonna need to do that one.
Yep.
To progress the story, probably. Well, I wonder, you probably have to do most of them to progress the story, though, so. Come on, horse. This river, I feel like it's just like the classic, you know, kind of river that you see in any kind of western, like John Ford's, like The Searchers, or I think the outlaw Josie Wales. They kind of, you know, have this fight along the river. You know, it's like low enough for people to cross, but so they get to one side and kind of have this fight out, shootout. But a lot of little things in this game really directly speak to the Western.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus.
Sounds like trouble.
You're okay.
I won't die to know, Wolf. Oh, you there.
Are you serious,
Please
dude?
help me.
Shit. How's this? I just shot that dog.
Oh, thank God. That animal was a goddamn menace. You saved me, partner. Woo. I was almost a meal there.
You're not gonna give me any money or something? Come on, dude.
Good luck to you. Watch out for yellow eyes.
I will, friend. I will.
Oh yeah. I can go skin those fuckers. And so just like to note that, you know, what he regards, what he describes the wolves as menaces, calls them, you know, those animals are a goddamn menace. So menace and monster, both being things that, you know, do not belong in a certain area, right? When you talk about, like, when you have a menace in your house or your neighborhood or something like that, when something's a menace, they're negatively affecting the space, right? They're not adding, you know, they're not adding to it. You know, and that's kind of interesting to think about as far as, you know, how the narrative is working, like how, you know, how are animals menaces and monsters? How do animals not belong in their environments? So the only way that they could not belong in their environment is if other people see, if you know, humans see it as being an environment that doesn't want them, or you know, seeing it where they don't. Oh, we have to replace them. Seeing it where they don't belong, you know. So instead of seeing like the land as, you know, kind of home to all these creatures and all this stuff, that's not the case anymore when humans visually and kind of physically dominate the landscape in a certain way. I don't think that it's like true domination, like it's not like saying that people control their environment is a little bit overstepping it, I think, because as much as people try to control their environments will never allow for that to happen. I mean, there's no way for humans to actually control what happens here. Oh my god. All these people, where is this?
Please stop. Oh, I beg you. Oh, I'm in bad sorts here. I took a little jolt and have managed to get myself hopelessly lost. I am staying in.
Are you serious, dude? There's a road
you
right
could just
here.
guide me back.
Can't think of a good reason to say no.
Oh, thank you, sir. Shall I hop up there on the back with you?
Your legs work, don't they?
Well, yes, I suppose. It's just a little demeaning.
What are you doing out here anyway? Clearly ain't your natural habitat.
No, I'm just visiting. I'm from New York City, actually.
Yep.
You don't say.
Oh, yes. There was some talk at the country club about this burgeoning little resort town called Strawberry. So I thought it might be quite the trip to see what all the fuss was. Perhaps make a few investments while it was still undervalued. Turns out I was made the fool.
Not enjoying it, then?
It's a town of splinters, if you could call it much of a town at all. I'd hardly stepped off the carriage and I'd taken in the whole place. I suppose some might call it charming. Let me tell you, charm is not worth much these days. You show me a timber frame shack and I'll show you Broadway. And meanwhile you have this mayor, a quite intolerable blowhard. A little bespoke woodwork and he thinks this is a cultural hub? The man's completely deluded. Well, I should give him some credit. He must be quite the salesman. He did get me out here after all, more fool me. Now I'm tromping through the leaves in the muck with some cowboy. No offense.
Little taken.
A lot of traffic on this fucking road.
Oh, I remember that. We're on the path.
So, obviously showing a kind of disdain or resentment for people who were from the East, and kind of for like the East in general, honestly. You know, because it is more urbanized and more populated and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, with the ideas that the Western propagates, it makes it such that, like, you know, it's this escapist fantasy, right? It's this escapist kind of novelty, and this guy wasn't really far from town hall. But it's this escapist idea where, you know, these people are not having to, are kind of shutting themselves out away from, you know, the urbanized society in the north, in the east, and you know, and finding something like, you know, to fulfill like the idea of freedom and fulfill this kind of. Oh, I can actually get this thing cut up. But yeah, so it's been a couple times now. They mentioned New York a little while ago, I think. Another character had gone there or something like that, you know, kind of a thing.
I never thought I'd be so happy to see this pulp heap.
Okay. Can't I just, like, get you to cut this fool up? Apparently not. I'm gonna carry this dead dog around with me a little bit longer.
Come on, girl.
Yeah, there was another character who talked about the East, and, you know, was a little more, seemed a little wealthier. Obviously not as rough cut as Arthur Morgan and some of the other men and women living here. You know, it shows this kind of difference, both in living style and environment, but also in ideology and kind of perspective on life and future. How am I going to break this guy to jail? I'm just going to walk in and...
Yep. Hello, sir. I've come from Blackwater. I'm on the trail of a dangerous gang. Colm O'Driscoll. Heard you had some sort of incident.
We don't deal with bounty hunters around here, son.
I was just wondering if I could get a description.
Well, they weren't friends. They got in a fight, 2 men got killed. Now, one of them's an idiot, the other's some kind of dumb Mick, so maybe them's your boys. You can look right enough when we hang them.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Alright, so you're gonna hang Micah, so I'll probably have to, you know.
Arthur! Arthur!
Hello, old friend. Had a good time, did you?
You going to get me out of here?
I ain't decided yet.
Real funny.
Oh, I ain't joking, cowpoke. I heard so much bluster out of your mouth these last 6 months. And now, I got an opportunity to watch you be silenced.
Well, you gotta do something.
Why?
I always looked up to you, Arthur.
Well, that's your first mistake. Listen, there's one little problem. There's only one of me, and there's a whole town full of people wanting to see you swing.
You got to do something, Arthur. This wall just needs
What
some
am
good
I
force.
to do? What am I to do? Find a way to free Micah. Micah, free your goddamn self. Okay.
You got any dynamite?
Oh, I do think I have some dynamite. Food.
You might want to step back a bit.
I don't know how this works though.
Maybe that steam donkey over there still works.
Oh shit. Well, that was exciting.
Let's get out of here, come on.
Oh my god.
He wasn't O'Driscoll.
Should've known you were up to no good.
I kind of want. Let's get
Got a hit.
this dude shoot. We gotta roll. Why are the horses actually good? How many horses are there? Oh, what happened? Did I leave Mike to die or something? Oh. Sorry, bro. Didn't mean that to happen. Alright.
Don't go that way. Let's get the hell out of here.
I got some unfinished business. Trust me, Morgan.
Trust you? You have finally lost your damn mind.
Keep moving up.
You goddamn maniac. Should have left you to hang.
We're in it now, Morgan. What do you want to do?
Oh my god.
Kill this whole town if I have to.
We should be long gone by now.
They got something of mine I ain't leaving without.
We're just gonna like fucking murder everybody in this damn town. I'm like stuck right here. Whoa! That's pretty cool. Oh my
I
god.
can see that.
Hell, I'm coming for
Oh,
you.
that's kind of cool. dude who just
Where are we
sucks.
going? Making a house call. There's more of these morons.
Why am I like stuck right
You wait! Man down!
here? Controls are a little weird to use too. I'm going to change it up.
We really should get out of here. Calm yourself, woman. Like I said, I need to see someone.
Calm yourself. So,
Skinny! Get out here!
likening
Skinny!
Arthur to a woman, which he's obviously not. You know, kind of makes
Wasn't let down, you fat sack of crap. Excuse me a minute, Arthur.
kind of makes caution and stuff like that gendered in that way, right? You know, Arthur can be cautious, but if he's being too cautious, he's being too much like a woman. So we have to, you know,
They
identify
had
as
something in
such.
mind. My guns. I showed him, and I'll show the rest of this town.
You have really lost it this time.
I couldn't have, he couldn't have like asked me to go get his guns and then
Let's end this. Up here, come on. The law in this town's a damn joke. Where are you going now? You want to get out of here, don't you?
it's pretty sweet.
Let's get to those horses, Morgan. What the heck?
Got that coyote on there, so wolf.
Now you want to get out of here? You're gonna die.
Keep riding, Morgan.
Don't have much choice.
Oh man, you know, I keep forgetting to put my mask up, so I bet they like see me all the time. Man, word travels fast around here. It's cool seeing all those lights down there
Get any more on our tail.
in the distance.
That was some good shooting, Morgan. Whew. I gotta hand it to you.
What the hell was that you pulled back there?
Got a bit wild, all right.
Wild? Making a house call in the middle of all that?
Ain't much I care about more than those guns.
That much is clear. Who was that fella?
Skinny? Yeah, we ran together for a while. Did a bank job down south. Didn't end well.
I saw how it goddamn ended.
He was gonna let me hang.
I'm starting to wish I had. And you owe Lenny, too. If he hadn't found us in time...
Yes, you will all be thanked profusely, I promise.
Yeah, well, you're lucky Dutchie's got your back. Some unknown reason.
That's good. I think that'll look
You,
I think we finally lost him.
I hope so.
I'm giving you a holster. My way of saying thank you.
And thank you. There I was, having a dull day only for you. To liven it up by letting me help you shoot up half a town.
You're a funny fella, Arthur. Real funny. Why you act all sour all the
Yeah,
time?
well, you ain't funny at all. So why you gotta act like a court
All right,
jester?
listen. I'm sorry, but we're family now. Arthur, you and me. Sons of Dutch.
makes us brothers. Sometimes, brothers make mistakes. I'm heading back to my little camp around back of Strawberry. Come see me. Maybe I can make things up to you.
You ain't heading back to Dutch?
Oh, I've been a bad boy, Arthur. I ain't seeing Dutch till I can bring him a peace offering. Bye now. Yeah.
I like how when you get done with these, people are just like, okay, goodbye. Thanks. That was fun. Oh yeah, camera. Guess I'm not doing very well when I get bronze.
It's got like really positive nature vibes and all that. This song is super ominous. It's gonna be a little silly, but. Alright, wish me luck.
Good luck.
You know what?
Guess I could go. Alright. I'm gonna go probably do this real quick and take a little bit of break. Might be on later today. I'm not sure how I'm gonna how I'm gonna label. Oh my god. I don't know how I'm gonna label some of these videos, like if I do twice in one day. I mean, I guess it doesn't, you know, it's gonna all be stored, so it doesn't really need to. What the fuck? Yeah. It's gonna all be stored, so it doesn't necessarily need to, you know, need to match up. But it's like if I do one right now and then later, it's like two different parts, you know. I would assume, I would think that's probably how. God damn. Are you serious right now? What the hell just happened? I need to take some medicine because I just fucked myself up. Ooh, and experience? Nice. Did that give me health though? It doesn't look like it. Maybe it's just gonna regen. Whatever. Before I do so, gonna just fill up real quick on my coffee. Okay. Got my caffeine. Let's do this. It's Javier.
How many?
A lot. Uniforms everywhere.
You see Sean?
Oh wow.
No.
So actually, this is kind of interesting. This is what I meant by just getting a look at this town. This is kind of what I meant by the more modern aspects of Red Dead Redemption 1. But it's funny to see it here too now, which means that it's not that it's not like modern or something like that, but kind of like compressing the difference in time period, you know, like it's really not that far away. It's 10 years, and just kind of seeing that there's some of that kind of structure, you know, that kind of architecture and stuff like that, and that kind of planning. It's just kind of interesting. Now comparing them, you know.
I'm not quite sure. Trelawney's off trying to find out.
Anyone been in the Blackwater, see how things lie?
Because there's still a question of Red Dead Redemption 1.
Pictures of Dutch.
being places like less advanced and not transitioning into anything, not progressing, just kind of staying the same.
Why haven't
There's
they
like a lot
hanged
of-
Sean, I wonder?
Think he's bait. Or they want to trial him publicly.
Gentlemen, Sean is being moved up the upper Montana, then to a federal prison out west. Damn. We can't be rescuing people from some federal prison. We either rescue him now or cut him loose.
I'm not cutting anyone loose.
Of course not. Ike Skelding's boys are moving him to a camp nearby before handing him over to the government. So, I guess we need to stop them before they get to camp. Charles, why don't you head up on the north side? And we'll head up on the other side of the valley and meet you. That way we have them in either direction. Javier, Josiah, come on. Let's go see. You know, Arthur, the government, or people whom the government like, seem to be very angry. Sure. Well, we'll rescue Sean and then we'll get ourselves lost, good and proper. It's a big country. I hope so. Come on, girl.
Boat? Down.
Let's head upriver and find this boat.
Keep your eyes open for Pinkertons. They got patrols out all over this area.
Yes, south of the river, West Elizabeth isn't a very welcoming place right now.
Just gonna get rid of that waypoint.
It's definitely as bad as we feared in there, Arthur.
I keep hearing about this woman, Heidi McCourt. Some young mother, they're saying, Dutch murdered on the boat.
Down there. Reckon those might be our boys.
All right, gentlemen. Follow me. Keep your guns away until we know it's Sean, okay? I know what you two are like.
You think they can see us?
If they can, we're just three fellas out on the trail. Act natural. We'll be fine.
We're just three fellas on the trail, nothing wrong.
You've been gone for a while.
Nothing else going on
Much
here.
as I love dodging the law and sleeping in the dirt with you derelicts, I do have other business to attend to.
What happened in New York?
Oh, okay,
You know
this is
how
a New
life
York guy.
is. Never a straight road anywhere.
Especially with you.
Nice to know I'm missed, though. Have you run out of people to rob?
Oh, we'll never run out of people to rob.
But without me, you'll not find the caliber of victim that I find.
Maybe. Anyway, we should keep it down.
Come on, let's keep them in sight.
You all right, Javier? You're quiet.
He hasn't stopped talking since we left you in Valentine. It's the longest ride of my life.
Cute, dear boy. Very cute. Push up, come on. Apparently, there's a camp somewhere around here where the bounty hunters meet and transfer before continuing out west. I imagine that's where they're headed.
Okay, come on.
Hey, they've pulled into shore. All right, let's take a closer look. Binoculars, gentlemen? Hey!
Binoculars. There we go. Oh. What are we looking at?
So who are these bounty hunters?
I don't know too much about Ike Skelding's boys, but I hear they're a big crew, wild, Built some reputation in the last year or two.
That looks like Sean to me.
Certainly kicking up enough of a fuss. Yep, that's definitely Sean.
Oh, they're giving him a decent kicking.
Well, you can only imagine the shit he's been giving them.
Oh, yes.
They're taking him up the canyon.
There's Charles on the other side. Let's go.
What about the other two down there?
I've got an idea. Follow me.
Do this quietly if we can.
Leave it to me, gentlemen. I'll go around and create a distraction. Then you two sneak across and do the dirty on them.
Okay.
And do the dirty on
down
them.
out of sight. Take out your knife. Wait.
So it's like violence isn't treated as something good necessarily. It's more treated as necessary to this way of life, you know. Not just any kind of violence, right? But like a gratuitous violence, like fatal.
What's the problem? It's dear Bessie. You take the one on the left. Okay, come on. Stay low.
I'm beside myself. If I lose Bessie, I lose everything. Calm down.
Oh, am I supposed to have my knife out?
I can't. I'm having a fit.
You guys are really good actor.
Come on, let's get up there.
A pleasure as always, gentlemen. I think you have it from here.
Come on. We got two halfway up the canyon to deal with.
I wonder if we can do them like this too. What's the point of even buying a hat if you just get hats again, like recycle hats, after they fall off? Oh shit. Peek out, dude. Help tonic. Okay. Oh, this is good. Nice. Oh.
Another one on the cliff. You see him?
Back to Javier. trying to do, and then you told me to come back here.
All good? Wouldn't go that far. The camp's up this way. Come on.
Yeah, but they didn't hear nothing.
I'll take the left side, Charles. You go right, okay?
Yes.
Take him down!
Goddamn army of these bastards. How much is Sean's bound? Turn him in on. Still time.
You know, it's a lot of guys for one, us to be alive, and just in general, like, there were this many people. I forget who this guy was, some kind of bounty dude, something.
You know, you're a lot less ugly from that other angle, Arthur.
Come on.
Do I get a hug, Arthur? A warm embrace for a lost brother now found.
You know, nothing means more to me than this gang, the bond we share. It's the most real thing to me. I would kill for it, I would happily die for it. But in spite of all of that, I would have easily left you here to rot if Charles hadn't stopped me.
I don't believe a word of that, Arthur.
Get him out of here.
You're a great man, Arthur Morgan. The kind of young whippersnapper can really admire.
Shut up. Right, we should split up. Javier, will you escort Mr. McGuire back to camp? Charles, best you ride separately. Be careful. There's patrols everywhere.
What about you?
I'm gonna see what's worth taking here. I'll meet you back there as soon as I can.
All right. Okay, come on. Have I got stories for you?
Yeah, I can't wait.
I imagine y'all missed me a lot, but fear not. The joy's back in your lives now.
Yeah, so a little more of Arthur Morgan's kind of position on the gang and whatnot. You know, he said he'd happily die for them. Showing his kind of, you know, obviously how he feels about them and what kind of impact they have on his life. Also really dismissive, you know, what I've been, I don't know if that's explosive. What I've been noticing is his dismissiveness of being regarded as like a good person, or when other people tell him that he's admirable or something, he doesn't really believe it, or he really resists being labeled as like someone who's admirable for some reason. You know.
All right, girl.
There we go.
Gonna make. Look there.
Holy shit! Run! Okay. Guess I can't stick around the crime scene just too long, because apparently we got telepathic law. Whoa! Shit. Okay. Alright. Okay. I guess I'll go down the road. don't really have any other options. They seem to be kind of lost.
Yep.
Go, you dumbass horse! Go! Oh, yeah. Alright. Oh my god. No! Oh, shit! Jesus. So that's how I die. I roll off a horse and knock my head into a rock. Jesus Christ. This is a weird kind of... Is that a loading screen? Oh, yeah.
Okay, girl.
Well, I guess... Oh, I didn't mean to get off the horse. Well, I guess there's nothing really to do there. Let's say strawberry. I guess I can go check the sky real quick. Actually, I don't want to. Man, there's just like a lot of places where I'm like wanted, just not cool. So oh, and I lost my coyote, dude. What the coyote body? Actually, maybe I'll go back to camp for now and rest up a bit. I'm gonna probably head off for a little while. Come back later tonight. Got some things to work on. Particularly working on the draft for this paper that which is why I bought this game. Not the whole reason, but why I bought this game right now and now streaming it. For some research on writing about it. So that's probably what I'll go and work on after I'm done here. Going to camp and getting some things set up. Yeah, so a little more of the same that we've been, you know, seeing the past couple little episode parts of this playthrough. Not too far in, but the story, the direction of it's staying pretty consistent with regards to this gang experiencing a, you know, change their environment that they're having to evolve to, and really the question is whether or not they're going to be able to evolve to, you know, survive in their environment. They are increasingly coming up with things that are limiting them, and it kind of seems that with the missions that we've been doing so far really been centered around like them competing with other gangs who are trying to impose on them, kind of competing with, I guess in general, these other obstacles that are keeping them from, you know, being able to be successful and be free, more or less, as John Marston said earlier at the beginning of this episode playthrough. So that's really all the missions that have been kind of being set up, and the whole gang wars kind of leads me to think about something like Grand Theft Auto and, you know, the whole. I played, you know, Grand Theft Auto 4 part of 5, but it seems like those stories are also really about trying to maybe not so much struggle with like a change happening, but struggling with being able to survive in a way that is not very sustainable because it goes against the law and, you know, will get you arrested or will get you killed, and yada yada, all these things.
Arthur! Oh, Arthur!
Are you seem in a good mood?
I am, son. I am. Let's have some fun. Tonight. Let's enjoy ourselves.
We having a party?
Maybe. Just a little one.
Great.
Uncle Sean is back. Mr. McGuire is back. So come on. Let's have ourselves a party. If I have to whip on my way.
A party? That's nice.
What do you missed up here, you drunk old shitbag? It'll be nothing but the finest
I want to cook some
game
food.
in the pot. Now, Deadeye McGuire's back. Don't worry about nothing, Mrs. Grimshaw. We'll have this
How do I
cat
cook?
running like clockwork.
I can just eat the stew.
I love you, bastards. Have fun. Have lots of fun.
And even though the gang and you know, their whole kind of occupation is centered around, you know, capital, centered around you know, robbing and stealing, but it is still kind of based around, I mean, really what in a sense like kind of founds capitalism, kind of founds the basis of it, is this exploitation to some degree. In their case, it's, you know, the exploitation of the system in a sense. You know, they really seem to try to only fuck with the rich or fuck with other gangs that give them problems, for instance. And anyway, what I was going to say with that was, even though they kind of rely on this capitalist mentality, they are still they're still very much, you know, look at where they're living, for instance, in this kind of commune where you just go and grab a bowl of food, and when you're in trouble, there are people who look out for you. There are people that bust you out and don't necessarily expect anything other than, you know, your participation in what they've got going on, which in this case is manipulative and a little bit deceptive from the point of Dutch, because Dutch is kind of seeing everybody as a tool in a way, and not as a tool for each other, you know, to be used, but kind of ultimately as a tool for himself, where that seems maybe where Arthur's kind of moral, you know, his struggles with Dutch's morals maybe comes into play, because this little kid's in my fucking photo. But because he doesn't see it like that, he sees, you know, this kind of sacrificing for not just himself, but for the group as a whole. Whereas Dutch is probably just using the group as a whole for himself. That hasn't really been made apparent by what I've played so far. It's just my feeling after kind of knowing kind of what the story is about and leads to.
Yeah, it's good to have him back.
Creepy little kid. So basically the dichotomies here are one that the gang is you know, on one hand reliant on capital, but they're all also reliant on, you know, this collective union of the members of the gang. You know, they can't really. There's no way I would have been able to take a photograph of that. But it's about this collective union of the gang. They can't do anything unless they have the members of the gang to, you know, to do something with. They don't count pennies, you know, they share things, they share space, they share security, they, you know, all of this kind of stuff. Which is, that's what runs counter to, you know, capitalist modernity, which is now kind of creeping into their way of life, which none of them enjoy or are able to really grab. You know, right now it seems like it's kind of just breaking out, and they're grappling of, you know, these kind of problems of capitalist modernity and the switching over from, you know, looking at the collective health of their communities to the individualist kind of rugged mentality of, or the rugged mentality of individualism, you know, where they kind of are just, they can only do as much as, you know, they're able to with their own hands, in a sense, even though they're propped up by, you know, modern society.
Each little bird's a wild free rover, and a rover, wild and free am I. Oh, I'm a wild free rover, I sing a merry song. The wide, wide world I wander over, with a light, light heart I roam along. With a light, light heart I roam along.
Is there no way I can, like, go to sleep? I just want to go to sleep. Oh, there we go. Ugh. So I think we can kind of be wondering what whether you can kind of think about whether Arthur Morgan is resisting this capitalist modernity, or whether he's, you know, just kind of shaping up for the evolution of it. You know, we know that John Marston kind of continues out of this whole thing because he's in the first one. And it's almost like he escapes the incoming modernity to be thrust back into the past, which is where he goes. He goes to this land that's more stagnant than before. But so far, the gang's resisting capitalist modernity, and well, so that's the thing, they're not necessarily resisting those kind of changes yet, because they are right now just trying to evolve and trying to redirect their struggles and their focus to the things that, oh, that guy's changing out the pot, that's cool. But, you know, so they're just trying to guide their focus on what they need to do in order to survive in this environment, which for them right now is going to be what am I trying to say? It's going to be, you know, fighting the other gangs and struggling in that kind of warfare, while at the same time trying to evade capture, trying to evade law and order. So they're trying to evade. So at one hand, they're trying to evolve, but at the same time, they're trying to evolve while trying to evade modernity, if that makes sense. They're evolving their tactics and they're evolving what they need to do to survive, but again, at the same time,
Yes, Miss Grimshaw.
what they're evading is still the law and the modernity that they've been able to evade this whole time, presumably, because now they're just having to confront these problems for the first time, and it's inevitable, and we know that's inevitable because of where we are right now in society. So, that's kind of my wrap-up for this session, this part 3 of my Red Dead Redemption playthrough with narrative analysis and commentary. Again, this is Ansel Arnold, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.